Rangers take 3 of 4 from the Detroit Tigers. More costly errors defensively. This team looks terrible. We break it all down next on this edition of the Locked On Tigers POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Tigers POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Goodness gracious, I'm going to pull my eyes out watching this baseball team before it's all said and done. My living room, coffee table, TV stand, or I don't know, whatever it's called, has an imprint of my fists from pounding the table watching that egregious baseball. But the Rangers take 3 of 4 over the Tigers. This one, a good old-fashioned slugfest, 9-7, the final in this one. Welcome into the Tigers POSTCAST, Locked On Tigers POSTCAST. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You are Locked On Tigers, your team every single day. My name is Jake Riepma, formerly with the flagship 97.1 The Ticket, now host of Locked On Tigers POSTCAST. Thanks for joining me on this edition of the show. And as difficult as it is to talk about how bad this defense has been in the last 2 games, we will break that down because I think that's where this one got away. Same with yesterday. And we'll break down Kenta Maeda's poor start once again. And maybe I'm to blame because I said to a buddy before he even took the mound that can't wait to watch his meatball fastball out over the heart of the plate. And sure enough, the first batter of the game, Marcus Semien, goes yard on a 2-0 fastball over the heart of the plate. So we will talk about that and wrap it up with our studs and duds. But before we go any further, how about a shout out for today's title sponsor, making Locked On Tigers POSTCAST possible, brought to you by Monopoly Go. And I admit it, guys, I got a competitive side. You hear it in my voice when the Tigers continue to lose games. I get angry, I get mad, and I slam things. And I'm not quite that aggressive with Monopoly Go because I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download the Monopoly Go app live now, free on the App Store and Google Play. So this game began with a lot of, let's go all the way. We'll talk about Kenta Maeda, but the dynamics of this game certainly could be classified as a slugfest. And that part was kind of refreshing in the sense that there were multiple innings where the Tigers offense put up crooked numbers. So maybe we start there, and that way I'm not yelling at everybody for how upset I am that there were multiple games to win in this series and this opportunities that you let get away from you in this series. And maybe my blood pressure will come down a little bit as it relates to the way the offense performed. Now, some of that, you look at the opposition today, Jack Leiter making his much anticipated Major League Baseball debut for the Texas Rangers. Really cool story. Former second overall pick out of Vanderbilt, and obviously has the family dynamic there with his father pitching in the bigs, his uncle pitching in the bigs, and his cousin in the bigs. And I believe they said this on the Rangers broadcast, that Jack Leiter is, and the Leiter family, the first father-son duos with the uncle and cousins also playing in the major leagues. So they said it way better than what I just did, but you get the point. There's a lot of history there. So neat moment for Jack Leiter to make his major league debut against the Tigers at Comerica Park. But given the way this game started with Maeda putting the Tigers in a hole early, a lot of credit belongs to this Tigers offense for getting right back in the game, and they wasted no time. And I was a little bit nervous because welcome to the bigs, Jack Leiter. The first batter he faces Riley Green with a 3-pitch K, but jump to the second inning with me. That's when the Tigers bats came alive. And in that second inning, I'll get my nice comments for Javi Baez out of the way early because, again, he deserves it. So tip of the cap to Javi Baez. I'm not going to say his plate approach was much better. He took advantage of pitcher mistakes and throwing him strikes and smashed a couple of doubles. But if he can be that bat in the Tigers lineup, that will certainly help. But in that second innings, you got Baez doubling home Colt Keith. Gio Urshela went all the way to third, and then the ground out that allowed Gio Urshela to score, and Riley Green's triple to center that scored Javi Baez, and then he came around to score on the Mark Canha single to left. But this feels like the first time this season you're able to look at a box score, and it's not a single run here, a single run there, or maybe, and I'm not here to say the Tigers are some power hitting team, but the stringing hits together, the putting up crooked numbers, the adjectives or the qualities of an effective offense for once were on display for the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park. So I think that's a really, really positive to build off of. And in a 4-game series against the defending world champions, it's almost like a complete reversal of, I'll take this game in a vacuum, is a complete reversal of what this team has been and what the identity of this team was, because it wasn't good pitching, and the bullpen even really lost it late. Some of that and most of it the blame belongs to the defense, but the offense was there today. Now you jump ahead again. Now this is a kid making his first major league start in Jack Leiter, but you still have to show that you can jump on a pitcher when he doesn't have his best stuff. And, I don't have a ton of tape on Jack Leiter from the minor leagues, but talking to people within the Rangers organization, a lot of friends that cover the Rangers very closely, he's a guy that the anticipation was there for him to be a quality starter in the bigs, and obviously being a former second overall pick, the investment would certainly back that up. But the expectations for him are high, but he goes just 3 2/3, allowed these 7 earned runs on 8 hits and walked 3, did strike out 3 as well. Now, also, the Tigers deserve some, maybe not credit, but Taveras in center field for the Rangers, a tough day, more on that in a moment, but the 3 runs in the 4th inning, if you look at how the Tigers were able to manufacture those runs, they took advantage of some poor fielding on that Kerry Carpenter triple that allowed a couple of runs to score, because that was just a horribly misplayed ball by Taveras in center field, where it just kept carrying and carrying and carrying. But those types of plays are going to happen. And it was, again, a game in which you get down early 4-0. You come back and tie it at 4 with the 4 spot in the second. But then Maeda, again, does not give, he doesn't get that shutdown inning immediately following a 4 spot. The Rangers scored 2 in the 3rd and 1 more in the 4th. So on multiple occasions, this Tigers offense showed some life. They showed a backbone. They showed the ability to counteract the opposition scoring. And I mentioned it in the open, it felt like a real slugfest, which you go back in the schedule, there hasn't been a game like that this entire time. Now, with the good comes the bad, and we're going to break this down even further. Spencer Torkelson, the worry level is getting to an all-time high for me. Now, that said, all that matters is the Rangers won this game 9-7 and take 3 of 4. And again, it was a game in which you score 7 runs through the first 4 innings. You like your chances based on the way this team is built to win the majority of those games, that you score 7 runs through 4 innings, and it just didn't happen tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. And now the Rangers 11-9, Tigers fall to 10-9 with a big weekend series coming up in Minnesota. So the offense, Javi Baez, again, deserves some credit. He had 2 doubles on the day. Nice performance from him. 2-hit game for Riley Green. Mark Canha had 2 hits with an RBI in there as well. I don't want to shortchange Riley Green as well. 2 RBIs for Kerry Carpenter. And Torque was the one that, again, he had the 1 RBI double that he laced into the gap. So maybe I'm being too critical, but the bigger at-bats for Spencer Torkelson. He was not able to come through. Nice 0 for 5 day for Matt Vierling, plus the air. Colt Keith with 1 hit on the day. Gio Urshela had 2 hits. He was 2 for 5. And same with Javi Baez with the 2 for 5 as well. Now, there was some extra base power, which you like to see. The double for Baez, he had 2 of them. And Riley Green also had the double. Spencer Torkelson with the double. Because part of this team, the reason they don't strike any fear in the opposition is because there's no extra base pop in the lineup. And today, if you can bottle that up and maybe try to, I don't know, harness that, bottle it up, and build on that into the weekend series against Minnesota, maybe we see this offense start to come together momentarily for the Detroit Tigers. But a slugfest loss in the final game of the 4-game series, and the Rangers take 3 of 4. Now, coming up, I break down Kenta Maeda's start and his inability to get batters out. But first, how about a shout out to today's sponsor, making the program possible here on Locked On Tigers POSTCAST. That is Policy Genius. That's right. Life insurance is not always the most exciting or most fun thing to talk about, but we know it's an important safety net for you and your family. And trying to find the right policy on your own can be time consuming. It can be daunting. It can be overwhelming. Take it from me. I've had some loss in my family, and I know the importance of life insurance. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financially safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval, and you avoid the unnecessary medical exams. And I know when people hear life insurance, they think time-consuming, sometimes a very, very difficult task to get into, but not with Policy Genius. Super easy to use. And if you already have life insurance, you got to talk about why you got it and why it is important, because Policy Genius is there to help you. Your work life insurance policy may not offer you enough protection for your family's needs. So check out life insurance. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And to tell you everything you need to know one more time, that's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Today's show is also made possible by Monopoly Go. Now, I've told you about my competitive side. We all know that. But let's talk a little bit about the situation we've all been in, right? Either as a player or fan, it's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low. Not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you got to dig deep, my friends. Lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, take as much of your friends' money as you possibly can. And that's right. That's my mentality every time when I play Monopoly Go. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends and get the most riches in the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, so it's more convenient. And anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with the Wrecking Ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. How about that, sports fans? All right, time to talk about Kenta Maeda, and I'll cut right to the chase. You know, the old bring the lead. I believe that's what we talked about at the old Northwestern School of Journalism. You got to start with that lead. So my lead is Kenta Maeda's got to go. The experiment was fun, and I understand he's a veteran presence and he's had some success in his career, but I can't watch 85-mile-per-hour fastballs over the heart of the plate sail out into never to be seen or heard from again, like the leadoff home run from Marcus Semien. And I hate to harp on that so much, but if you could have been with me watching the game, watching it with my girlfriend, I said I just don't like watching Maeda pitch because he doesn't have the ability to get hitters out with his fastball. And next thing you know, I literally said this, he falls behind in counts, and then he soft serves a fastball right down the middle. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened in that leadoff home run for Marcus Semien. And I don't want to say it was all downhill from there for Kenta Maeda. Obviously, the Tigers' offense showed some resiliency that we talked about. But once again, it's another bad outing for Kenta Maeda. 2 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, 2 walks, just the 2 strikeouts, but gave up 3 home runs. And this is not like the Rangers team that, yes, they're defending World Series champions, and you look at the lineup on paper, and obviously it strikes fear in an opposing pitcher, but they haven't been the power hitting team they're capable of until they met Kenta Maeda, because he has whatever, I want to say the ability to bring out the best in the other team's offense, but that's kind of what it boils down to. And that's now 4 starts for Maeda in 17 2/3 innings. He's given up 15 earned runs. So that's why I think the experiment, we've seen enough, and maybe that's me jumping to conclusions too fast, but give me Matt Manning, give me the former first round pick, give me the younger guy that when he's on has shown he can be a bona fide starter in the major leagues. And I know Maeda has the historical data and the career that he's proven he also could, but they've created, like, there's a cliche saying to describe when a pitcher doesn't have it anymore. We use that in all walks of life. What do we say? Oh, he doesn't have his fastball anymore. Like if you've got an old boss who used to, be all over it and, would be able to make any sale, and all of a sudden you can't close. What do you say? Well, he's lost his fastball. Kenta Maeda has lost his fastball. It's time for him to go. And I got to give a shout out to Adam Salgett on Twitter, who is always good for some funny interactions on the X now, saying Kenta Maeda needs to go work at Mom's Spaghetti. He's just serving up meatballs. But seriously, that gave me a good laugh because it's true. And I know it's only 4 starts, but this team is not good enough in the other areas of being a baseball team to send a pitcher out there that's going to put you in a hole. The offense is not good enough to respond. Now, they did today, and you had a chance to win the game, but typically or generally, if your starting pitcher, is that you're trotting out there every 5th day is going to put your team behind the 8 ball, that's a recipe for disaster. Now, it'd be one thing if you felt like he was your best option, but at this point, I do not feel like Kenta Maeda is the Tigers' best option for that starting pitching position in the rotation. Let me know what you think. I know we got some people tuning in on the YouTube stream. We appreciate you doing that. Or if you're catching the audio only version, either way, want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to be doing these shows on YouTube each and every day after Tigers games. And the fun is just getting started. Hopefully this team can go to Minnesota and restore some belief, some confidence after dropping 3 of 4. But not only did Kenta Maeda not have it, but uncharacteristically, the bullpen let it get away late. And you go to that 8th and 9th inning, and I tweeted this out. It felt like I was watching a Little League baseball team because the Tigers made so many egregious mistakes in that half inning of the 8th inning. They had Taveras off second in a rundown. And this is where I did, instead of the slamming of getting upset, I did the double palms up. Like if you're watching on YouTube, like, what are we doing? Cue the Scott Van Pelt bumper of the, what are we doing? When Taveras was caught in a rundown between 2nd and 3rd and did some kind of military grade barrel roll that somehow juked Gio Urshela out of his shoes, and he went tumbling over the top of him, swung on with the tag, completely missed, and now all of a sudden Taveras is on 3rd and eventually comes around to score as the go-ahead run. Because what happened? Well, another error by Spencer Torkelson, who it's difficult to say this without sounding negative and without sounding like I'm, old man yelling at clouds, pounding my fist, but Spencer Torkelson's got to figure it out. Figure it out. Cue the Big Cat gif when he's at Ford Field, if you're watching on YouTube, where he's just screaming, figure it out, both offensively and defensively. You got to see more from Spencer Torkelson. It was a rough series for him, and more on that in the studs and duds portion of the program to wrap this up. But Kenta Maeda, you got to go. I want to see Matt Manning in the starting rotation. Call him up from AAA. And, at some point, we're going to do a whole segment on who I want up from AAA versus who needs to be shown the door. And I was in the clubhouse one time when, I'm blanking on his name, the third baseman that made all the errors last year, Nick Maton. Yeah, when... Yeah. And this was, I don't want to call it a welcome to the bigs moment for me, but it was one of the first games I had covered in the clubhouse for the Tigers. And I overheard, it was after Maton made a costly error, and I overheard one of the team relations guys talking to him saying, it was that whole, hey, we're sending you down, pal. And we're going to send you your stuff to Toledo. So don't worry about it. We got all the logistics covered. We're just sending you to Toledo, pal. And I overheard it. My jaw kind of dropped a little bit, but that's the conversation that we need to have with a couple of these guys for the Tigers. A couple of call-ups. Maybe it's Akil Baddoo. Maybe it's Chase Young, somebody that can continue to provide a spark for this Tigers team, because dropping 3 of 4 to the Rangers in games you had chances to win is certainly extremely frustrating. But we'll wrap it up with studs and duds when we come back. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Tigers POSTCAST. All right, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports TV, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming, even though sometimes I admit I scream a little bit when the Tigers, make Little League style errors throughout the course of the game, especially in the 8th inning. But that's all right. I'll stop screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is also made possible by Prize Picks. That's right. The most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is Prize Picks. All you got to do is pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and that is where the fun begins, my friends. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform and is a ton of fun. We've got Major League Baseball in full swing. See what I did there? Full swing. And if you're like me, you probably pick less on Javi Baez hits, but some days you might be wrong, like I was today. But you can have so much fun in a multitude of ways. Don't forget about the NBA playoffs starting. We had the play-in games last night, or the last couple of nights, I should say, and that action is just heating up on the hardwood. And the NHL playoffs, which brings some tears to my eyes because our Red Wings were so close, but the good-for-nothing Flyers can't do anything right. If we needed any more confirmation that Philly is a you-know-what hole in a terrible sports town, it was the Flyers losing to the Capitals. But that said, the NHL playoffs are starting. Prize Picks is a lot of fun there as well. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB for up to a $100 deposit match. That's right, prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB Locked On MLB for up to a $100 deposit match, because I'm telling you guys, PrizePicks is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, download the app. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to a $100 match. PrizePicks.com, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. PrizePicks, use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And it's time for the studs and duds portion of the program. I rambled a little bit too long in the opening two segments, so I will try to wrap it up here and be relatively brief. But the duds, we could even do this for the entire series, but the Tigers defense, back-to-back 3-air games, and there were even some generous non-airs in this game, if you will. In the way that this defense played, you're not going to win baseball games that way. You're not going to win baseball games when your team is built on pitching and defense and the defense doesn't show up. So take this as calling out the entire Tigers defense as a dud that needs to be better. They have to wake up. And I know in the course of a 162 game season, you get in some ruts defensively, you get in some ruts at the plate, your bullpen gets in some ruts, the starting rotation gets in some ruts. I get it. But 3 airs, okay, that happened yesterday. Shake it off, show up to the ballpark today with an attention to detail, an intensity with a focus to not make 3 airs again, to not be caught in a rundown Little League style and be unable to make the tag. And that's why Gio Urshela, I know he had 2 hits today and he did make some plays at third, but the way that rundown transpired, it in a tie game, no less, to let Tavares, again, military grade barrel roll slide out of the way. Just be an athlete, man. Be an athlete. And Torque, it was almost like it was contagious, because the next play, Torque makes the air there. Those are my 2 duds for today. And I'll throw Kenta Maeda on here as well, but that feels like it's piling on because I made it pretty clear with Kenta Maeda. I don't want him in the rotation anymore. I don't want to spend every 5th day on Locked On Tigers postcast complaining about Kenta Maeda being the starting pitcher. It was an experiment. We thought maybe he still had some gas in the tank. He doesn't. See ya. Nothing personal. It's just the business. Now, some studs. This is the second part of the program where I'm going to say something nice about Javi Baez, because the multiple doubles today really helped spark this offense. And I don't want to give him the credit that this team feeds off of him, because just saying that out loud tastes like vinegar coming out of my mouth. I don't want this team to feed off a negative personality like Javi Baez that is doing, if you're listening to the audio only version, doing the, I can't hear you, I can't hear the boos to the crowd when he's getting booed. And then that same day in the post-game comments, oh yeah, the boos don't affect me. I just think this is a guy that is wired a little bit differently for whatever reason. And some people just thrive on negativity. And I think Javi Baez is that guy. So I don't want to give him the credit, or even, not that who the heck am I? I'm one person just screaming into a microphone, but I don't want this to be him to become like the face of this team that, yeah, let's rally around the negative guy like Javi Baez. But when he performs, I will tip my cap, because we know it's there. We know and when the Tigers made the deal for him several years ago, he doesn't command that type of deal if there's not proof in the pudding. So we know it's there. We want to see it a little bit more. He raked today. Got to give him credit. Now, lost in all this, especially where the bullpen ended up giving it up, was the 7th inning by Alex Lang. I want to go back to that 7th inning for a second here, because Alex Lang looked like the Alex Lang of old, and he inherited a very difficult situation. You got the bases loaded with just 1 out, and in a 7-7 game, this is where I thought, here we go, baby. The Tigers are taking this game. We're going to split this series, some positive momentum, because Alex Lang came in and got Wyatt Langford swinging and then struck out Jonah Heim swinging, inning ending, no runs. What a job by Alex Lang. And hopefully what's happened today in that the Tigers lost to the Rangers, Alex Lang can be a guy that builds some confidence from that performance today, because I thought he looked really good. So he gets a stud for today. That's going to do it for us. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's free daily content. And don't forget about Locked On Tigers with Scott Bentley. I know you won't. He's got you covered from wall to wall. What a job he does. And together, the two of us, we try to be, like the Bash Brothers. How about that? A little bit of post-game reaction, a little bit of daily content. That's the 1-2 punch we're talking about, keeping you covered on the Detroit Tigers and Locked On Tigers postcast, Locked On Tigers all the way around. So thanks so much for tuning in. Much, much appreciated. Always a pleasure to be on the air with you. And my fun fact, I had a fun fact while we're still getting to know each other in this. I think we'll cap the fun facts off at about a week. We'll say a week. But one of my first, and I tell people this all the time, when I knew I wanted to get into the business of sports broadcasting, I was playing backyard football like every kid does. And having a big mouth like I do, I was mouthing off with with the official, who happened to be my mother. I did not agree with probably a pass interference call at 5 years old, and I got sent to my room. My room happened to overlook the backyard where we were playing football, so I lifted up the window and I was like, "Hey, I might have been ejected from the game and sent to my room, but I'm broadcasting this game. I'm the announcer." So I proceeded to provide play-by-play audio from my bedroom window for all the imaginary fans in attendance. That was when I knew I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So one more Locked On Tigers postcast in the books. Final score: Rangers win this one 9-7. They take 3 of 4 from the Tigers. Rangers 11-9. Detroit now 10-9. They go to Minnesota for a weekend series at Target Field. It'll be Jack Flaherty tomorrow for the Tigers, and that will be an opportunity for the Tigers to get back in the win column and get a W, much needed W, after dropping 3-4. So thanks so much for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. And we'll see you next time on Locked On Tigers Postcast. Have a wonderful day, everyone.